Baba knows the way. For Joseph, Baba Ifa. Baba knows the way. We follow the signs. He walks with the Orisha through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients. He honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.
Borui boya. Phil, I have not been this excited about an episode since Angry Comments.
Oh, well, we're probably going to get a lot of those today.
Misconceptions about Ifá, man.
Yeah.
What a great idea, brother.
Yeah. So before we even start, I mean, I didn't know what Ifá was until I met you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of these questions are for people who have probably either heard of the religion or know somebody that is associated with it, and probably had some questions that they may have been too afraid to ask,
for sure,
or just have heard through the pipeline and just assumed things. So
yeah.
So today we are going to tackle a lot of those common misconceptions.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And if you are watching this for the first time, make sure you leave us a comment. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this video so we can reach the masses. And if you want to know more, if you want to dive into be a little more deeper, you can join our membership program. It offers a plethora of extra information, early releases to the podcast, discounts on merch, private shows just for our members and stuff. So make sure you join that.
And help us get to 200K if we haven't gotten there already.
Yeah. All right, man. So some of these are some of my own personal misconceptions.
Nice.
And some of these are from what I've heard, and some of these are from what you and I have discussed off air.
Yes, sir.
So we haven't really gone over the list. So
we're freestyling.
Yeah, we're kind of freestyling here. So and if you guys have comments too, some misconceptions about Ifá, make sure you drop it in the comments too.
We can follow up,
we will go over these comments, and if they weren't answered in the video, we'll create another video of us replying to the comments. Sound
yes,
cool?
Sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So first Ifá misconception is that Ifá is witchcraft or black magic.
It is not. The thing is this, right? Spirituality can be utilized depending on the person's intentions, right? There's a lot of really great things and overall that happen within Ifá. It is to heal, it is to uplift, it is to elevate, it is to educate. But needless to say, within any type of divine expression, it could be mishandled and utilized for the negative, right? Just like all other spiritualities. Each of them has an aspect that can be manipulated towards the negative, whether it's reading a psalm a different type of way or utilizing the mysticism that exists within all spiritualities. Ifá can be used for very negative things, but overall, Ifá is the most beautiful spiritual expression that any of its practitioners has ever encountered, because that's the reason we stayed. But to think that 100% of the time negativity happens over here, not at all. I would say maybe 5% of the time, if not less, negative things can be, or done or can happen. But it's definitely not the overall. I mean, when you think about that, how can anyone sustain that? Just doing negativity all day long. And for those that do stimulate it that way, you start seeing the effects. Erraticness, physically, you'll start seeing them affected, their situation. You could tell if somebody's delving into that just by the way they are.
Yeah. No, and I just think people just immediately associate Ifá with just like spells and curses. And
I mean, when you look at something this indigenous and this rustic, you're talking about West African practice and whatnot. When you look at it, it's definitely not, that which is common in the West. It's not digestible. You're seeing very rustic dances and the music and the energy and the climate. It's intense, but that doesn't mean it's negative. Usually confusion or misunderstanding is what leads to fear. So when somebody who's Western educated and minded and born sees something, further to the east, west coast of Africa, the diasporic passage, and they see that, they might not understand it, but that doesn't mean it's negative. You have to understand what's occurring to realize it's actually very positive, even though it may be presented in the most intensive terms.
Okay. All right. Next one here. Now, this was probably one of the biggest outside misconceptions too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that animal sacrifice is the entire religion?
No, heavens no. I mean, even when I was a young Babalawo or a younger Babalawo, it was something that I was very slow towards. Ideally, that happens once out of maybe every 8 divinations, ideally, depending on how fundamentally versed someone is when it comes to practicing. You know, when you're younger, you want to prove yourself, right? Not that we're rushing towards the knife, but you want to be able to show that you're capable. So as I've gotten older, you kind of look at the chicken and the goat and whatnot, and you're like, man, you know, I don't want to sacrifice things as much. Or I'm very slow to mark things like that or even ask the oracle, because there's so many other potent processes that you can perform spiritually without having to shed any blood. And then you start wondering, you know, one day, you know, what if I'm the chicken, you know? So definitely that's not what we're doing all day. It's not what we want to do. But if we are going to do it, we're going to do it in the most ethical and respectful way possible and be precise. And we're not the only spirituality that sacrifices animals. And even some of the ones that don't today did in antiquity before whatever happened there. So yeah, we're just not killing things all day. I assure you, I'm getting older. It hurts more.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're a Babalawo. Now, one of the common misconceptions is that receiving your Hand of Ifá means you are now a Babalawo.
There's a funny story about that. There was a young man that received Hand of Ifá, and one day he went to a drumming, and you know, he's a young man, and you know, the girls, they see him with the Dan, what up, and they go up to him and they're like, oh, you have Ifá? And he's like, yeah, I got Ifá. So, you know, they're saying Iboruboya and stuff like that. The way they were asking it was like, yo, do you have Ifá done? But he just had Mano Orula. So, you know, I'm being told the story, I'm seeing, you know, and all these different things, and I'm just laughing. But the Hand of Ifá is receiving Ifá, but it's not receiving Ifá in the full context to be able to practice Ifá as Babalawo. So you have Ifá, you can work Ifá, perform Ishef, Oshe Ifá, you have your Ishefá, which is to be worked. But if you want to start pulling Iking and sacrificing and, you know, initiating people and all those other things, you have to go through Itefa. So the Hand of Ifá is Ishefa, to be able to work Ifá. Itefa means your destiny was written within Ifá. And that's when you go through that process to be able to reveal your true destiny.
Okay. So one of the other common ones is that, you know, I've even heard this one too, is to say if you practice Ifá, you don't believe in God.
Well, I mean, it's a religion, you know, and spirituality. So there has to be some higher power, which we denote as God. I believe that everybody's God is the same God. Different name, different cultural influence. But there is only one source and one higher power. I believe that, because even if you look at the Big Bang and that one atom of light that imploded and ultimately exploded into what is creation, there's only one source. So we definitely believe in God. There's logic here. There's love here. So it is a spirituality, religion, whatever you want to term it. And if God is love, then definitely we believe in God. We don't hurt nobody. We don't hurt people. We don't hurt. So there has to be a God here. There has to be something that motivates us towards positive interaction and treatment. But definitely, yeah, we don't worship the devil. We don't, do negative things. We don't invoke a negative energy or a dark energy to, provide any calamity. I mean, I'll be frank with you. You look at some other spiritualities, the way they're practiced, what horrors have been done in the name of God. So I think that definition of God has to be really analyzed on a, practice by spirituality basis.
No, I feel you. So like, I hear that, the Orishas are gods that people worship instead of God, but how would you explain the relationship between Olodumare and the Orishas to someone coming from Christianity?
Well, yeah, I mean, Olodumare's tired. They said after he or she created the universe and the world and whatnot, they were exhausted and they didn't want to do no more. So they left aspects of themselves or extensions of themselves, emissaries, to be able to handle the day-to-day, minutia of the universe. So that's why we really don't make offerings directly to Olodumare. We make offerings to the Orishas. Eshu is ultimately there all the time, and he's the one who takes it to heaven to be recognized. But yeah, I mean, we worship Olodumare. He's the first thing we mention in the Iba, or the reverence prayer that we use to start off any ceremony. But it's not that we're making offerings directly to Olodumare. Every offering that we make to any Orisha is in essence an offering to Olodumare. So, you know, but yeah, we worship the Orishas, who are an extension of Olodumare, as we are. You know, that extension is in Ori. You know, so we are an extension of the Orishas, who are an extension of Olodumare. We're just manifesting on different planes and in different forms. I wonder if they're the aliens. What if they want nothing to do with us right now because of our lack of development empathetically? But that's a whole different thing.
Right. So regarding Hand of Ifá, right, a lot of people probably don't even know what that even means.
Yeah.
Who are outside.
It's like that thing from the Addams Family. That's what the Hand of Ifá.
Some questions are what exactly has someone received? Like, what's the spiritual relationship that the Hand of Ifá provides? Like, the question is, a misconception is like the Hand of Ifá initiation is the entire religion, but it's not.
No, it's an aspect. It is the first step in the religion. Everything should start with Orumila, because we come here to reveal our destiny and appease it. So it's definitely the first step in the religion, but it's not the only part of the religion, because from that, you know, this spider web or lightning display extends from it, where, you know, you have your Hand of Ifá, now you know your Orisha. Are you going to delve into that, which is the Olorisha aspect of things? Are you going to stay there? Or, you know, you have your Odu. What aspects of your Odu are going to, you know, manifest for you? Are you going to be a drummer? Are you going to be a spiritist? Are you going to be an Egungun worshiper? Are you going to be a herbalist? Like, is the religion, I would say Ifá has to be the most complex spirituality on earth, because there's so many departments. And luckily, you know, each group is handling it in a way where we're preserving ourselves to the point where Ifá will never be erased, even though it has been attempted to be so many times. But Hand of Ifá is the first step towards delving into the whole religion. Without the Hand of Ifá, you really don't practice Ifá. You don't practice Orisha, because we have to identify that guardian Orisha conclusively and your Odu conclusively. Now, for the people who can become Babalawo, that changes, right? But it's still a great stepping stone towards that, to let you know what you need to work on before you reveal the other half of yourself.
Okay. So, tough one here. Why do you hate other religions?
We don't. I mean, I don't think about other spiritualities. I believe in Ifá wholeheartedly, you know, and it's to the point where I didn't want to perpetuate any other spiritual beliefs within my home other than that, which is Ifá upon my children. But that's not because I hate anybody else. I just believe that fervently in what we have. I'll be frank with you, and it's not that it's not a religion to religion thing. It's a person to person thing. I mean, if someone has an issue with Ifá and its practitioners, that spirituality doesn't have an issue with it. It's the people and the way they're interpreting it. The same way with us. If we say we have an issue with another spirituality, that's really not the case. We have a issue with a person that practices that spirituality who is expressing it in a way that could be, you know, infringing upon someone else's you know, situation. So we don't hate anybody. We really hope no one hates us, which I don't think that a legitimate spirituality could hate anybody. Where there's logic and love is where you'll find spirit. That's what Orumila said, and that spirit was him. So anything that preaches any type of hate, that's not divine, that's not religious, that's not spiritual. That is humanity. Undeveloped, you know, unpolished, low frequency. So we don't hate anybody, and I deep down inside really believe no spirituality truly hates us. I think that the way things are written or interpreted and employed, you know, it looks very different from the actual message. But, you know, Orumila interacted with all the prophets, all of them, you know, on various lifetimes, of course, through various reincarnations, etc. And they all got along for the most part. You know, it was those that came behind that distorted things. So we don't hate nobody, and I don't think anybody really hates us, you know. But if anybody does, we still love us, and we got us. So,
another common misconception is that the year in white is like being in jail.
Not jail. I mean, I've never been to jail. I mean, I know a bunch of people that have done time and have been incarcerated. I've initiated them. I've been raised by them. I've interacted with them. I got friends who did time. And what they tell me, the year in white is they wish they could do, like, I know guys that did 10 plus. They said, we wish we could do 10 years in white versus 10 years in the penitentiary. So, it is something that takes a lot of discipline. But then again, you really have to analyze, why does that feel like jail? Why does discipline and routine feel like jail? And that's why we have that system in place, to be able to identify that which you need to improve upon and strengthen. So if anybody views the year in white as jail, it's because they don't have discipline and aren't used to a routine. And that's usually where Orisha is here to save, because through those things is where real success comes from. Without routines and discipline, what can somebody accomplish? To be able to be successful, there's a lot of repetitiousness up until that one accomplishment that denotes success. So now, mind you, you are wearing the same thing every day. You're eating at the same time, ideally. You're home at a certain time. You wake up at a certain time. But, there are elements that are very similar, but that doesn't mean it's like jail, by heavens, no. But you have to analyze, why does it feel like jail? And that's usually why you had to do Orisha anyway. We had to fix some things.
All right. I've also heard that you guys rip people off.
Yeah, no. Overall, no. It's like with anything, it's people. Like, I'll pay anybody to say I took $1 from them that I wasn't promised. I always say, I don't want people's finances. I want to be compensated for the service that I have been, I've been sought out for. So, there's no reason someone can't make a just and due living ethically from Ifá service for those that are willing to pay for it. We're living in a time when everybody's real worried about money. And I understand that, because economically, it's very tumultuous. But people, numbers are important. Cost is important. But luckily, we're living in a time now where people recognize value. So we're a premium establishment. That's no secret to anyone. But even with that quality and characteristic, we may be one of the most sought out Ifá establishments in the world. And, people understand that they could get something else for a more cost-effective number, but they still choose to seek us out because they know they're going to get the highest quality product in the most streamlined way possible. And there's going to be accountability to where they're going to be able to grow with it. So you have establishments that focus on, this person's charging too much, or I don't charge that. I offer it a more cost-effective rate. People don't really care about that. People care about value. So what everybody needs to do is find out what cost correlates to their value. And if people are willing to pay that, everybody just needs to mind their own business, and focus on their establishment rather than anybody else's. And if you want to be able to charge what that premium establishment is, put the work in and stop worrying about what other people are doing. And ironically, the same people who make those claims are the ones really robbing people. So yeah, you are going to have some people within Ifá and Orisha who are treacherous, who are scammers, who are going to take your money, just like in any other spirituality. The only way to God is through funds, unfortunately. In any spirituality, to reach the apex of it, you have to have funds. If you want to go visit that sacred spiritual site, you have to pay for that airfare. Or if you want to provide that sacrifice to said deity, you have to pay for that. Or if you're going through said initiation, it comes with costs, based on personnel and materials. So money is not the focus, but it is the medium point. And the most important thing is that you're with somebody of integrity and that's ethical and competent, and that you're willing to invest in the value they're providing, with all the options that are there.
Yeah, no, I get it. So I've also heard that your Odu predicts exactly what's going to happen to you.
Oh, heavens no. Yeah, no. So if that was the case, no one would make any mistakes ever. And we're just human, right? Being a part of Ifá Orisha doesn't make you all-knowing. It doesn't make you, how do I put this? You're not going to know the next thing that's going to happen to you, even if you have your sign. Orumila doesn't have time for minutia, right? So if you're looking for the name of the person that's betraying you, or what's going to happen tomorrow, or what day am I going to die, Ifá has no time for that. Ifá is focused on providing you the information necessary to live your best destiny in the most streamlined, expeditious way possible. So now, mind you, there may be major events in your life that directly correlate to story and scripture within your sign. Those are the things we're either trying to avoid or achieve. So that's why we have to study and understand who we were in the past life to live the best one now. But to know the lottery numbers and things like that, you know, I don't know why anybody would want to know that. The lottery, you win it, and most of the time people die. So Ifá doesn't have time for, I don't want to say specifics. Ifá is very specific, but it's more thematic, you know, like we avoid this to avoid this ultimately. Not that, you know, in 5 minutes, God forbid, we need to not be on our phone so we don't get in a car crash. Well, don't be on your phone anyway while you're driving. That's what Ifá is focused on, prevention.
It's not fortune telling.
Absolutely not.
Okay. So, everybody, speaking of Odus, though, everybody with the same Odu has the same destiny?
Oh, heavens no. Heavens no. Because you could have two people born same day, same name, same Orisha, same Odu, and they live completely different lives. Because there's this thing called Ori, and everybody's Ori is different. That's why when you go into Ayala's house, he's molding millions of them, you know, and they're all different. Some of them have the same sign, but even with that, you could have people that live completely different lives. Like I've met people with Irete Suga, and they don't live the life I live. I don't live the life they live. Same Orisha, different Orishas, and you know they couldn't be any more different. You might find similarities, but what dictates that is Ori and the person's Iwa and their character. So having the same sign is not it's not going to confirm or ensure that you're going to live the same life as somebody else. Like, let's say somebody has a great life and you're like, oh, I pulled their same Odu. That doesn't mean you're going to have the life they live. You got to work at it.
All right. One big one, too, is that Eshu is the devil.
Oh, no. Eshu is... I remember we made the video that Ifá was around before evil, and people... That one went over their heads, you know, the identification of evil or the focus on it. That's what we were really trying to say. But we got some views. But Eshu is not Satan. That's the big thing now. And he really isn't, because when you look at the qualities of Satan, he was evil. You know, he wanted to do the opposite of God. And then you look at the interpretation of Lucifer, it makes you wonder, you know, was Lucifer nothing more than a teaching moment to be like anything that opposes that which God says is negative. But when you look at how God was interpreted in that scripture, it was something that was meant to impose itself. And all he did was ask, or, you know, Lucifer, that which seeks light. So it was really a way to tell people, hey, don't educate yourself to the point where you can contradict what God is saying or the establishment. But that's a whole nother conversation. But if we interpret it as, evil, negativity, all these horrible things, Eshu is not that. Eshu's not that emotional. He is literally the balance. You take care of them, things might go your way. If you don't take care of them, things are definitely not going to go your way. And it's all a reflection of our character and our motivation to live the best life possible. Recall that Eshu is one of Olodumari's bodyguards. He's one of the ones that vets and filters who deserves to be by Olodumari's side and receive his blessings or Ashe. He is the distributor of Ashe, like the Odu Ashe Tura or Oshe Tura says. So Eshu's not Satan. He really doesn't care that much. He's like, give me my rooster, take care of me, do the right thing, be able to overcome temptation and distraction and have good character, and you'll be blessed, and I'll get out of your way. So he's not Satan at all. Satan is a Western concept. It's too emotional. It's not us.
Yeah. So I've also heard that Ifá is only for Yoruba or African people.
I mean, Jesus, man. I mean, what am I doing here then, right? I mean, I'm not an African man. What? I mean, I'm Afro-descendant. You know, I wasn't born in the motherland. I didn't do Ifá in the sacred grove of Ifá. I didn't perform Oshun initiation by the river of Oshun. I didn't do none of that. You know, Ifá is for anyone who is willing to work it. Ifá is for anyone who's willing to suffer for it. Now, it's not, misplaced to say the first practitioners of Ifá were melanated. You know, our gods were black, right? But then you even have the concept of the albino and whatnot, debatable. But, if that was the case, Orumila wouldn't have initiated 16 different men as the first Babalawos ever to govern the world. When you walk the 16 lands of Ifá, like Awolo De, Awolo Da, Awolo Ma, Awolo Kun, etc., when you go through all 16, you have Awo Afing, which was the albino Awo, right? You have Awo Awangfing, which was the blonde Awo. You have Awo Filani, was the Asian Awo, or the Asiatic priest. Awo Kukunduku, who was the mulatto priest, or he was reddish brown. So all of these different shades, all of these different walks of life, and man, when you look at the Odio Yakuntesia or Idibatutu or Ikarete, when Orumila walked these 16 lands and found a great man from each of them, even though he wasn't perfect, he said, you're going to be the one that represents Ifá in this land. And the reason I need you to look like you is because they're going to resonate with you because you look like you and you look like them. So, it's erroneous. We're living in a time where there's a lot of division, there's a lot of discrimination, there's a lot of, but at the end of the day, Ifá was always for great people. A very knowledgeable brother in Cuba, that's a part of my lineage, told me, Joseph, Ifá is meant to unite great people. So if you're here and you want to be greater than what you thought you could be, and you want to work Ifá and suffer for Ifá and learn Ifá and propagate Ifá and be an example to those who want to come in, this is for you. But it doesn't matter what you are ethnically or racially, because, if we go by that stereotype, none of us would be here, or it would be displaced, and not everybody that looks the part deserves the part. So, and that goes across all traditions, Lukumi, Sheshe, any of the ATRs. Be an example of what Orumila left behind. That's who deserves Ifá.
All right. Santeria, Ifá, Lukumi, and the Sheshe are all exactly the same thing.
I can't say exactly because it looks different, but the root is the same root. Ifá is Ifá. Whether there's a Saint Lazaro statue there, or if you have green and brown beads on, or whatever, because Ifá is the umbrella. Two major traditions right now. You have Isheshe, that which is traditional, and then you have Lukumi, which is more the new world. But technically, the word Isheshe means tradition, so Lukumi is my Isheshe, right? That's my tradition, right? That's why it says always go back to your origins, always go back to Isheshe. It's not that we just go right back to Ife. We have to also analyze, what did our ancestors leave us behind? That's why me personally, even with the acumen I've been able to gain from Isheshe, I haven't left behind Lukumi, because I feel like we have the most complete ceremonial processes on earth within Ifá, humbly. But ultimately, same thing. Yeah. The language might sound a little bit different. We might have some deterioration that we're, repairing. But as far as results, it all works. So find the one you like the most and makes the most sense for you, and you'll be all right.
Okay. Can a Babalawo fix every problem in your life?
Ifá can fix every problem in your life, spiritually, but there's things that human beings have to do and put work into to be able to get that full, well-rounded result. Via our, mobility within Ifá, and what should ideally be our acumen within Ifá, we should be able to address every issue that is presented to our mat. The Babalawo speaks of politics without being a politician. He speaks of medicine without being a doctor. He speaks of law without being a lawyer. Ifá is a license for all within a spiritual compass. So, will the Babalawo resolve everything? No, because unfortunately, the client isn't always ready to do that real world, personal action to be able to fix their issue in accompaniment with the spiritual attention. But Ifá can resolve everything. Ifá will mend our broken world. So, yeah.
All right. So I've heard also things too. If you receive the Hand of Ifá, that means you have to be a Babalawo. No,
heavens no. There's a bunch of people who receive their Hand of Ifá, never did Ifá or Itefá, and they live to be 100 years old. The Hand of Ifá is simply to let you know your options and possibilities. And then there's a bunch of other things that go into that. Personality traits, characteristics, lifestyle. Now, if the person wants to become a Babalawo, they're definitely going to know if they have the eligibility, and thus confirming their desire to do so anyway. But not every person that has Babalawo traits has to do Ifá upon receiving the Hand of Ifá ever. And mind you, receiving Hand of Ifá, you might be somebody that wants to be an Oriate or, a spiritist, somebody that might even want to delve into another spirituality or ATR completely. Maybe you received your Hand of Ifá on the way to getting scratched in palo or getting sworn quiñongo, whatever it is. The mano orula is just a stepping stone. you know, and a full process as well. If somebody's going to stay there, if that's ultimately what they're meant to have.
Okay, so is your Hand of Ifá, is it something that you receive only once?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've had very difficult cases where people have come and they've lost their Ifá, or they're not in contact with their elders anymore, and they don't necessarily remember their information. And, you know, I have to stress the importance of recuperating it so that we can continue with their care.
So what if you stop practicing though? Like, do you still have like the same obligations?
If you're not practicing anymore, you're not obligated to anything. I mean, the ceremony's done and the responsibilities are the same. Now, whether somebody fulfills them or not, that's completely up to them. But you have people who received Hand of Ifá and maybe things went well and they're like, yeah, I don't want this anymore, you know, but that's why whenever we're going to initiate somebody, we do that filtration process to make sure that this is something they're going to fulfill with for the rest of a lifetime, you know, because these are lifelong spiritual pacts and associations that we make. So that has to be understood.
All right. One of the common questions is that if you receive Hand of Ifá, you have to stay at that house and practice at that house.
Ultimately, no. It is ideal. Like, I've initiated people that, you know, don't necessarily practice within our home anymore. It could be that they're at a distance. Like, not every separation has to be negative, and it might not necessarily even be a separation. It could be distance. When you're at the stage, and for hypothetically, someone such as myself is at, there's not that kind of emotion. You know, if somebody says, hey, you know, I'm practicing with these people over here because, you know, it conveniences me in more ways than one. You know, we fulfilled our obligation. We provided the service. We did everything to the best of our ability and highest quality standard. You know, at that point, we understand some people, you know, might fluctuate in and out of the house, which is perfectly fine. You know, it's their decision. They've paid for their things. They have their things, and they're going to do what's best for them. But as long as it's not on negative terms, it shouldn't really be an issue, you know. So, but ideally, you do maintain practice with the house that initiated you, simply because it's much more streamlined, you know, and it's much more communal.
Yeah.
And familiar.
Okay, so one other thing that I hear too is that bows are expensive.
They can be.
And if it is expensive, that means it must be more powerful.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, the ebo is effective as is, you know. A good ebo is a good ebo, whether it takes 3 goats or whether it takes 3 obis. But just because an ebo is more expensive or a product is more expensive doesn't mean it's better. You know, it depends. How effective an ebo is going to be is based on the competency of the professional performing it, the expeditiousness in which we perform it, and once again, the continuing care of the person that's soliciting it. If you're not behaving and you're not, you know, conducting yourself accordingly with iwa, you know, the ebo is not going to work. The most important sacrifice we do is that of character, patience, humility. You know, that's what makes an ebo more effective, not the dollar amount. That's a means to an end.
Gotcha. So let's talk about Babalawos. So
okay,
one misconception is that your Babalawo owns your spiritual relationship with Ifá.
Heavens no. Your relationship with Ifá is completely based on the motivation and effort you put into that relationship with Orumila. The reason you receive Hand of Ifá is to take control of your spiritual well-being 99% of the time. Now, the only time the Babalawo is solicited for service is, you know, if annually you're fulfilling with, you know, the animal debt to Ifá, like you're giving 2 hens to Ifá, or you're having him feed Eshu for you, or maybe you're doing an ebo from your sign. And it's not that we own it, we're facilitating it. But who owns that relationship is the person that's in that relationship with Orumila, the recipient.
Okay, so speaking of Babalawos, questioning your Babalawo is disrespectful.
By no means. Just like questioning your parents isn't disrespectful. We should question, you know, within reason. You know, we want to make sure that, you know, common sense is always at play. But at the same time, you know, when you're coming into spirituality, you might not know what is commonsensical in something this foreign. So, you know, someone such as myself, I love questions, you know, and there's no such thing as a stupid question, you know, just gaining that from academia. So you should question. Now, you also want to put in the time to ask the questions that are necessary. You know, for example, if I've given somebody literature and it's answering all the questions that they're asking me now, I am going to ask, you know, question to question, did you read what I gave you? And then whether it's a yes or a no, the conversation goes from there. But You shouldn't get mad at a godchild asking you questions the same way you shouldn't get mad with a child asking you questions. Patience and poise are really what gain that confidence and really transmit that knowledge that the person's looking for, as long as it comes from a transparent and authentic place.
Okay. You can self-initiate.
Absolutely not. That is the biggest farce of the modern Ifá TikTok era. Like, there is no such thing as self-initiation. Self-initiation is really within. Like, if you want to meditate and, delve deeper into self and become one with nature and things like that, absolutely. You're self-initiating yourself from a natural standpoint, like spiritually, what have you. But when you're talking about process, even Orumila was initiated, even Odudua was initiated, they didn't initiate themselves. So, it's just not real. You can learn about yourself, you can introspect, but that's about as much self-initiation spiritually you're going to be able to get away with. Yeah.
You can build an altar to any Orisha you feel connected to.
You can, but I wouldn't. I've seen this happen, and what happens is they end up calling on energy that isn't mitigated by any of the materials they have there. So when I give you an Eshu icon, right? When I actually give you a cement head Eshu or one that's in a clay plate made out of terracotta, whatever, there's materials in there that are able to dispel the negative aspect that is naturally within that which is an Orisha, that all-encompassing energy of positive and negative, so that you only get the positive, right? But if you just have some incense, a statue, a cloth, and a maraca, you're calling all that energy and it's not going to be mitigated. That's why a lot of people, they'll call on these energies and whatnot in these little spaces they call altars, and then they start feeling this this negative phenomena, or seeing these negative symptoms within their practice. So gotta be careful.
All right. I've also heard that your Ori and your guardian Orisha are the same thing.
No. So Ori is Ori. It is the extension of Olodumare within our head. Orisha is the defender of Ori. So it is that which defends Ori, usually by sitting upon it, right? Alabat Ori, that which is the elder upon Ori. I actually got this question the other day from one of my godsons, and he's a son of Shango. And he said, is Shango and my Ori the same thing? And I said, no, Shango is meant to be assimilated by your Ori to be able to defend it in the best way possible. Now, this is a Lukumi conversation, because when we talk about Isheshe, they're all Alabat Ori. They all get assimilated to the head in some way, shape, or form. You crown all of them. But in Lukumi, we're very precise based on, the complexities of our initiatory process, to where we only go through it once, being that we are Oyo descendant and centric. So, yeah, your Ori and your Orisha are two different things, but they're synonymously intertwined because they help each other, right? Or they serve each other.
So are ancestors and Orishas the same thing?
Depends. In its most technical sense, absolutely. Your ancestor becomes Orisha because it's a venerated ancestor. It's a selected head. It's somebody that you venerate. Now, when we're talking about Shango and Oshun and things like that, that time passed. Like, they were the Anunnaki, they were the Titans, they were those original manifestations of energy and light and nature within a human body. And then if you interpret it, Gungung as being the composition of all the people that have ever transitioned ever, then, him as well, but our ancestors become Orisha. Egungun is an Orisha in itself, and it's composed of our ancestors, and then you have the other Orishas who are deified ancestors, right? Shango did amazing things on earth, and then they just kept repeating his name and giving him offerings to the point where, he's a god. But there was that divine Irumole root that activated within his Orisha process, where there was that connection between heaven and earth, thus, creating a god, or activating it.
Okay. I've also heard that Babalawos are psychics.
They can be. Egung is a big thing with us. I spent a lot of time in Espiritismo to stay active before I came up with the money to do Orisha and Ifá. Sat in a bunch of misas, a bunch of revelations, see the dead, hear them, all that. So I don't know if that's psychic. As far as telling the future, we can't necessarily tell the future like a final destination type thing, but Ifá can predict situations that may arise and what their outcomes may be. And for every brother out there, Babalawo, that negates Egung, they're negating a huge part of their practice and process, right? Orumila was the Orisha most in touch with death. You know, he would meet with death every day, the same way God and Eshu would meet every day. So definitely spiritualize yourself. You know, if you're a Babalawo in the Lukumi practice, it's because you don't have the molecule to come into trance anyway. So don't even worry about that, you know. Every now and again, I clean my boeda, take heavy care of my egungun and my oro, you know, and all the other deities that have to do with ancestors. Ifá is an ancestor worship. So, yeah, kind of not. Depends on your definition.
So what do you do if you get a reading and you don't like what you hear?
I mean, do it both. You know, like, if you don't like what you hear, change what you're hearing, you know, by changing your character so Orula doesn't have to tell you the same thing over and over again. Even if you don't like it, the truth is the truth. The problem with society now is we want to change reality. Rather than trying to change reality, let's change ourselves. Let's better ourselves. So, do it both and change.
Okay. Let's see here. Ifá has one universal rule book.
It has what?
One universal rule book.
Yeah, it's called Odu. Yeah, but the thing is it doesn't mean that the rules to the less experienced don't seem as if they're contradicting each other. Like, for example, there's Odus that say a gungun should only be offered rum, right? Like, I think Okanafun speaks of that, where you give Otira Egun because the water wasn't ideal. But then you have Odus like Eyobe where it says you have to offer water to Egungun. So somebody who's just getting in will be like, oh, this contradicts itself. No, it's understanding that each Odu means something different to each person, whether they have it or not. So if somebody's Ofunkana, I might not offer water to Egun. But every other Odu, if it doesn't state otherwise, I'm offering water. So there is a rule book, but there's different rules based on different arenas.
Okay. So Santeria is just another name for Ifá.
Yeah, ultimately. Yeah. It's Santeria literally comes from the word like santorial or santero. It actually was the title of the people who used to reconstruct and repair the images of saints. So it became the moniker of Ifá practice in Cuba because, you know, Catholicism had a huge influence. But it's the same way or name for Ifá, the way Lukumi is or Isheshe is. It's Ifá. You know, the only difference is you might see a San Lázaro statue, but that doesn't take away from the dogmatic practice that's occurring there, you know? So now people want to distinguish everything, which I understand it's a way to stay organized, but it shouldn't be used to divide per se. It should be to organize and identify. But understand all of these things are Ifá. Candomblé is Ifá. Orisha is Ifá, Umbanda, all these different things, they descend from Ifá. So now, are they all inclusive as Ifá? Some of them are not. I know Santeria absolutely is, because you have the Ifá aspect, you have Babalawo, and you have Orisha. So it is Ifá. Yeah.
So you want to play a game?
I don't know. Are you Jigsaw? You know?
No, but let's play.
Oh man.
Otherwise,
Doubled it up.
Yeah. Let's play true, false, or it depends.
Nice.
Okay. Hold on, I gotta wait for it. Hold on.
Good drums.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in to this very special episode of Our Roots Podcast. We're taking a little bit of a deviation here, and Joseph has answered a ton of questions, a ton of misconceptions regarding Ifá, and now we're going to put him in the lightning round. Okay?
All right.
We're going to be playing true, false, or it depends. All right? So I'm going to give you one quick statement, and then you can tell me whether or not it's true, whether or not it's false, or whether or not it depends. And then give me one brief statement after that, just like a follow-up, okay? Yeah. Now, Joseph does not know what I'm going to say. I literally just sprung this on him.
Sweating.
So, all right. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, first one. You choose your Orisha.
It depends, because in Lukumi we don't, right? But in Isheshe you do. You can choose which one you want to initiate into based on your Odu.
All right. Every dream is a message.
False.
Hand of Ifá makes you a priest.
False.
All right. Every Ebo involves an animal.
False.
You can learn your Odu from Google.
True. Yeah, you can.
Okay, well, can you elaborate? Or
You're not going to learn all of it. You're not going to learn all of it the right way, but you can if you know what you're looking for and you know how to interpret it, which most people who are using Google as a source don't have those skills because they wouldn't be using Google. Like, I don't study Ifá for Google.
all right. Ifá can tell you when you're going to die.
False.
Okay. 2 Babalawos should always give the same reading.
False.
You need a reading before every major decision.
False.
All right. Receiving more Orishas makes you more powerful.
False.
Okay. And last one, if something bad happens after an Ebo, the Ebo failed.
False.
Okay.
Might have worked. It might have been worse. Whenever that happens and you have some phenomena afterwards, you have to think, what did the Ebo save me from? That was too intense, Phil. I don't know, man.
Well, hey,
That
I think you passed though. I mean, you weren't. I don't think you got stuck on any of those. So that was excellent. But I did love this episode so far.
Yeah, man. How many did we have left over? Because this might be a part 2 in the making.
I mean, well, that's why I want people to.
Oh,
comment.
yeah, that
So,
too. Yeah, please, guys, let us know what you think people's misconceptions are or ones that you'd like us to elaborate on. I think this is important. This is important because, you know, we could be toxic and say, oh, no one accepts us, or, you know, we're marginalized or we're oppressed, but we have to educate. You know, we have to reveal what we can, you know, based on our oath. So episodes like this, I think they'll be really productive. Not that we're trying to change anybody's beliefs, but maybe their perception. And for the person that wants to be an Ifá, that finds it interesting but is terrified, hopefully this helps stoke those fears so you can find the right establishment to get you involved, man. It's the most beautiful thing I've seen besides my wife and kids.
Yeah. Well, you know what else is beautiful?
Oh, my members, dog.
Our members. You know you love that segue there.
It's the best.
Yeah.
There goes my voice.
I know. I just heard you. You just squeaked.
I'm telling you, you're working me, dog. And in the live too, man. They're like, no, drink some water. I need to get some with some electrolytes. It's all this coffee.
I know. Well, guys, you know, we reached a point to end of today's show, but it's never the end. There's always extra content for you. And if you do want that extra content, just click that join now button right under this video. It takes you to a magical place. That's right. It takes you to a magical place to where extra content is available for you. You know, we've got 1,800 videos on this channel or 1,900 videos on this channel. So definitely you want to check that out. Extra shows, discounts on merch, private shows. And like Joseph mentioned earlier, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on the misconceptions of Ifá, drop those in the comments and we're probably going to do a part 2, and that might just be just for the members. So you don't want to miss that. Nice. So let's give a shout out to our supporters. Let's go. Right. This is our first tier, right? And let's go with the OGs. Like I said, this has been 41 months that we've had this service here. So the number 1 OG for the supporter tier is Melted77. They are day 1
for sure.
Day oneer. We got Drowned Candle.
Okay.
Right. They are at 40 months.
Thank you.
But just a double shout out to Melted because they are the OG. They're the only one.
I think that's the double OG.
Yeah.
At that point.
They're double OG. So I got to get one of these too. All right. We got Guillermo. I can't see the rest of it, but Guillermo. We got 39 months.
Thank you.
We got Nick Morali. We got 38 months.
Sheesh.
We got Giselle Dorius for 37 months.
Wow.
We got Richie Kunga.
Oh, Rich, what's good?
37 months.
Oh my gosh, wow.
We got Johnny Ruiz at 36 months.
Thank you, John.
We got Header Tomboy. All right.
Okay.
34 months.
Oh, thank
Edward
you so
Rodriguez, 33 months.
Boru.
Visuals by Jay at 32 months.
Yeah, definitely.
And Perky.
Oh man. Yeah. Top runner for great name. Guys, thank you so much. You're the best part of the channel. If you want to be another best part of the channel, be sure to join the program or let somebody know who could benefit from it. BotanicaCandlesandMore.com is up and running for all your service and product needs. We ship. Be sure to listen to us if you can't watch us on YouTube. Top 1% podcast in the world, humbly. And be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share. A big thank you from all of us here at Our Roots Podcast. And until next time, family, see the light.
Baba Joseph showed the path today. Baba knows the way, we follow the signs. He walks with the Orisha through sacred lines.